Today I want to talk about the various big carbon molecules that make up your body and enable your function. We know about these six important nonmetals that make up a large percentage of your body: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. You can remember these using this handy acronym, SCHNOPS, that this picture, by the way, is not strictly accurate, that some of these are gases. These are compounds made using these elements, in case you're wondering. If we actually examine the elements in the Earth's crust, what we find is that most prevalent among them is oxygen, followed by a number of metals and another important non-metal, silicon. But we find, if we examine the elements in your body, that they're nothing like this, that oxygen still prevails, but now we start to see other non-metals creeping in terms of prevalence or abundance, how many of them there are. If we actually look at all of the elements of your body, what we find is that there doesn't seem to be too much of a match between the elements naturally found in the earth and those in your body, that life seems to take certain elements, like these here, and concentrate them at levels not found in the Earth's crust. We also require, in addition to these various nonmetals, a variety of metals too, including certain elements that you only need very small quantities of. So, a couple of these seem to be incredibly important for us to enable our functioning, and these we pick based on their abundance. As well, we're going to focus on one of them today, that is carbon, whether it be something like the carbon that makes up this fellow, or the soot that's covering his face, or the covalently bonded carbons that make up something like diamond, or woven into the fabric that makes the strong shell of this Koenigsegg CCXR racing car. Carbon comes in many forms and forms a variety of interesting compounds. It has a number of properties which we should explore further. We know that organic compounds are defined as those that contain carbon, as well as another atom, hydrogen, that you get a variety of interesting shapes that come about as a result of carbon's properties, that molecules on Earth that make up life on Earth are formed using a carbon skeleton, that using carbon bonded to a variety of other atoms, you can make a variety of structures, including plant and animal as well. Why was carbon chosen? Well, we know it has 6 protons and therefore 6 electrons, 4 in its valence or outer shell. Each of these can be shared with another atom, and therefore carbon has 4 more electrons that are shared with it, giving it a full outer shell. This means that it makes up to 4 covalent bonds. That is, when you have carbon bonding with different atoms, you can create a variety of very diverse molecules. Here we see carbon bonding with hydrogen, with nitrogen, with sulfur, with oxygen, with phosphorus too, indirectly at least, that you can get a carbon skeleton that is formed. If we look at even a 6-carbon skeleton, like we see in glucose, galactose, and fructose, even though we have 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens, you can see that there is not much similarity between these, other than the fact they all have a carbon skeleton. That by stringing together different atoms in different orders, you've created a variety of very different molecules that not only look different, but act differently as well. They have different chemical and physical properties. Carbon compounds can have different lengths. Carbon skeletons, I should say, can have different lengths. They may be straight-chained or branched. They may have double bonds in them, which put bends or kinks in the chain, and there may be rings present. All of these, in addition to the vast diversity of other atoms that carbon bonds to, create a number of very diverse molecules that make up living organisms. If you were to take a living organism and magnify it, zoom in on certain parts of it to examine its microscopic structure, things that are very familiar to us start to look very different. This, for example, is a structure that you have on your body. That this is an electron micrograph showing you your skin and eyelashes. That If we think about something as simple as the Velcro that may bind your shoes together, that stuff on this nano scale, this microscopic scale, starts to look very different from what you imagine it. Maybe not just Velcro, but something like the mosquito that bit you yesterday, Anopheles, the mouth parts examined here, or the caterpillar that's out in your garden, or the spider that's in your ceiling. Maybe not this spider, but a different spider at least. That at this scale, things don't resemble what you would expect them to. And as well, if we examine things, let's say, living on you right now, these are eyelash mites that feed on various dead skin. These are bacteria that feed on various sugars and other compounds found in your mouth. That at this scale, the cell itself too starts to look very different from what you may have seen it as before, or what you imagine it to be. That if we think about cells, actually, for a second, this is one of your cells, by the way. You can fit about 10 of these stem cells in the eye of a needle. This cell is about 10 times the size of a bacterial one, so you could fit maybe 100 bacterial cells in the eye of a needle. That at this scale, you may have examined cells before, that you know they have an internal structure. This is one of your cells, this is a bacterial cell, but in reality, your cells don't actually look like this. They're not simply bags of water with things just stuck in place inside them. That a bag of water is actually a terrible analogy for what a cell is. A cell is actually full of many, many molecules, maybe all dissolved in water, or at least interacting with water. But this vast complexity of molecules is the reason for the diversity we see in life today. That the molecules in your cell bump around, they interact with each other, they react with each other in this chaotic form, creating this vast complexity of form and function that we see in organisms on Earth today. Life is incredibly complex and a result of the biochemistry of the organisms involved, which you can only examine if you were to zoom in on what you see. So, if we think about the molecules that make up your cells, most of it is water. The rest of it, various other chemicals, includes a lot of proteins. The proteins actually make up your structure and function. You also have certain compounds, these carbohydrates, that help store energy, as well as DNA and RNA, which enable you to make proteins, as well as things like fats that make up your cell membrane, and various salts and other ions and other small molecules dissolved in this water. These are the four major classes of carbon compounds, these macromolecules as we call them, in your body. Macromolecules implies that they are large molecules. They are not simply 2 or 3 atoms. There might be proteins or nucleic acids, which might be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of atoms each. The key to examine this diagram, by the way, is down here. The brown atoms are carbons, the light blue are hydrogens, the dark blue, which you can see in proteins and in the nucleic acids as well, are nitrogens, the reds are oxygens, and the yellow, found only in nucleic acids, are phosphorus. There's another atom we're not showing here, the sulfurs, which is the S in our CHNOPS, which are found in proteins, but this protein doesn't seem to have any sulfur, so we've left it out. These are the four major classes that, through the variety of different properties of carbon, you can form a number of very large, very diverse molecules, because carbon bonds to itself and to a variety of other atoms. And the sheer diversity of different types of carbon molecules in your body enables your structure and function as well.